this video is going to walk you through on how to enter data into your calculator so that you can use linear regression modeling, all right, for scatter plots and that sort of thing. So there's a couple of things that we need to do first. The first thing that we need to do is turn our plots on. So you go to y equals in your calculator. If you already have something in your y equals, just hit clear and get that all cleared out like I have it there. And then you need to turn your plots on. So you arrow up to plot 1 and hit enter so that it's now highlighted. That needs to happen. Okay, do that first. Then I'm going to hit second mode. The next thing I need to do is I need to turn my diagnostics on so that I will be able to get that R value that I was speaking about in your set of notes, okay? The correlation coefficient. Remember that R value tells you how good of a fit your data, your model is for the data. So in order to do that, you're going to hit second, 0. Now you can scroll all the way down to diagnostics on, but if you hit your X to the -1 key, which is 2 down from your green alpha key, that will get you closer to your D's. And then hit diagnostics on, or scroll down to diagnostics on, and hit enter again. So then at that point, your diagnostics are on, so that you don't have to do that step again. Once your diagnostics are on, the only way they get turned off is if you physically turn them off, and I've never known anyone to do that, or if you have to reset your calculator, they do get turned off. So that would be how you turn them on. All right, so now I'm just going to hit clear, get this back into a clear screen. Now I'm ready to actually enter the data. You enter your data underneath the stat menu, and the stat menu is 2 over to the right from your green alpha key. So there's my green alpha key, 2 over, that's stat. Hit enter on edit. If you already have data in your first 2 columns, you want to clear that. In order to do that, you arrow up and hit clear and the down arrow key, and that will clear all of your data that's already in there. I'm already empty, so in L1, I'm going to be putting the years 2004 to 2009. And then once you've got your years in, I'm going to right arrow over to L2, and I'll put in the population of Arizona. Okay. Your 2 lists always have to be balanced. You can't have more in one list than the other. It's always a good idea. It's easy to mistype, so it's always a good idea to look at your what you've inputted in your calculator versus the list itself. Okay. After you've got that done, you're going to hit second mode and clear it out. From here, what I want you to do is I want you to go to your graph. At this point, you may or may not see it. If you do see it like me, then you're in good shape. If not, hit zoom number 9. Okay, and that will bring you up to a stat window. So zoom 9 will bring you up to a stat window, and it should be showing you all of your data points at that point. Okay. Now we're ready to actually fit our linear model. So in order to do that, I'm just going to hit second mode, get me back to a clear screen. You go back to your stat menu, but this time you're ready to calculate. So you're going to right arrow over to calculate. You're going to hit number 4 for linear regression. You can hit number 4 or arrow down to number 4, either way, okay? Now, if your calculator doesn't look exactly like mine at this point, then hold tight for just a second. If yours looks like mine, obviously, then you need to arrow down to store regression equation, okay? Now, everybody, regardless of what your calculator looks like, everybody will do this step, okay? You're going to hit vars, and vars is right beside your clear button. Right arrow over to yvars, and hit enter, enter. And what that's going to do is that whenever it calculates our regression equation here in just a second, it's going to put it into Y1 of our graphing function, okay? And then if your screen doesn't look like mine, you'll just hit enter. If your screen looks like this, you got to arrow down and hit calculate, okay? So your calculator here is y equals ax plus b instead of mx plus b. So it's telling you here, this is your a value, and this is your y-intercept. So if you remember by hand, our a value was 0.215 because we were only looking at 2 data points. But remember that what your calculator is doing here is it's using all 6 of the data points. So this is a much better model than what we did by hand because it's taken into account all 6 values. And we're getting an R value here of 0.992. So that's also a really good fit. So if we now go into y equals, your equation should be there, and that's from the vars portion that we did. And now if you hit graph, the equation is going through the middle of your data. You ended up with 2 data points above it and 2 data points below it. Okay, so it's a nice trend line there. Very balanced. Okay. I'm going to go back, or I'm going to come down here to our notes, and I'm going to put in our model. It told us to round to 3 decimal places. So if you recall, it was y equals 0.173x minus 340.041. Yes. And the R value was a 0.992. And hopefully you agree that is very, very close to 1, so this is a very strong fit. Okay. Very strong fit. Okay. All right, so then I'm going to flip it over to the next page. And let's come on down to example 16, and let's do this one here together. Here, let me take a second and erase. Sorry about that. All right, come back up here. All right, so here's our example 16. We'll do another one here together in the calculator. This is looking at the number of individual tax returns measured in millions that were filed in the U.S. from 2000 to 2009. This one is a little different, though. It's here they're asking us to let X be the number of years since 2000. So instead of in our L1 or our X column, instead of plugging in all those years, we're going to plug in the number of years since 2000. So, of course, 2000 is 0 years. 2001 would be 1 year after 2000. 2002, 2 years, and so on. And then these will be our Y values. So I'm going to go to my calculator. I'm ready to enter this in. So I'm going to hit Stat, hit Enter on Edit. Now at this point, everybody would have data in there, so you want to clear your data. The quickest, easiest way, arrow up to the header and hit Clear and your down arrow key. Go to the other column, top header there, hit Clear and your down arrow key. All right, so now I'm ready to enter in my data in X column 0 through 9. And then the L2 column, put in your returns. Okay. Again, I'm going to kind of peruse and make sure that I have entered this correctly. Pause the video if you need to. All right, so I'm going to keep going from here. Part A says to have entered enter in your calculator and graph it. So we've entered it to our calculator. So I'm going to hit second mode. I'm going to hit graph. All right. Let me go into y equals. Let's clear out our previous y equals. And let's hit zoom 9. There we go. All right, so, from left to right, it's increasing. It's not perfectly linear. Most real data isn't perfectly linear, but it's fairly linear, okay? So fairly linear, we would say yes here. Let me get my pen back. So we'd say yes, it's fairly linear. Not perfect, though. All right, so now it wants us to use our calculator to fit a linear model. So this is back where we go to our stat. So remember, I don't have to turn my diagnostics on. I don't have to turn my plots on. Those things are already on, okay? So I'm hitting stat. Arrow to calculate, number 4. Everybody now does VARs. Maybe you had to scroll down or arrow down to store regression equation, or you're now hitting VARs. Everybody's doing this together now. VARs, arrow over to Y bars, enter, enter, and then if your calculator screen doesn't look like mine, you hit enter again. If it looks like mine, you got to arrow down and hit calculate. Okay, so that is our regression equation. Let me put this now here in the notes. It tells me to round to 3 decimal places, so y equals 1.455x plus 125.055. Part C wants the correlation coefficient, so remember that's your R value, so 0.973. So R equals 0.973. Talk about the strength of that model, so that's definitely pretty close to 1, so I would call this a strong fit as well. Okay. Now part D, I'm going to show this one 2 ways. I'm going to show you how to do it by hand, and then if you're feeling comfortable with your calculator, I'll also show you how to do this with your calculator. So part D wants you to use your model to predict the number of tax returns in 2011. So I can't plug 2011 into my equation because remember, X represents the number of years since 2000. So 2011 represents 11 years since 2000. So I'm going to let x equal 2000. Let x equal 11. So in my equation then, like 1.455 in place of x, I'm putting in 11. You should be able to put that in your calculator all at one time, and that is going to give you 141.06. So they're saying that in 2011 there'll be 141.06 million tax returns. Okay, so this is obviously by hand. Again, if you feel comfortable going with the calculator, let me show you those steps. You can always, don't, if this is, if you've already on calculator overload, then, you don't have to worry about this. You know how to do it by hand. How do we do this in the calculator, though? First step is we need to set up our table. So you're going to hit second window. And you just want to arrow down and make sure that yours looks like mine, where ask is highlighted on the independent and auto on the dependent. So you want to make sure yours looks like that. If it doesn't, you just arrow over to ask and hit enter. Okay. And then hit second mode. And then hit second graph. And I already have a data point in there, so I'm just going to hit clear. I thought I had it. Just a second. Equals second graph, so my table. Oh, I need to hit delete. I was hitting clear. I'm sorry. I need to hit delete. Type in 11. Excuse me. There we go. And so by hand, we got 141.06. In the calculator, which is actually an even better answer in this particular problem, because the calculator hasn't done any rounding whatsoever until here the very end. So 141.05 is a better representation. So I'll just make a note here that the calculator answer from the table is giving you 141.05 million tax returns. Okay, either one's acceptable. Okay. And then lastly here in part E, it wants us to use our regression equation to determine in what year the number of tax returns will be at 200 million. So here's our equation, that y equals 1.455x plus 125.055. Remember, the number of tax returns, that was being measured on the y-axis, so I'm going to put 200 in here for y. And solve for x. So I want to get closer and closer to getting this x all by itself, so I'll subtract 125.055. Do that subtraction there, you get 79.945. Divide. And you should get 51.5. I'm telling you to round it to the nearest whole number, so let's go ahead and make that, well, I already wrote that, so 51.5, so then I'll go ahead and round that up to 52. So remember, x represents the number of years since 2000, so add 2000 to that. And we're talking about the year 2052. Final answer. Okay? All right, I hope this helps. If you have any questions with the calculator or something like that, definitely feel free to come see me. All right, thanks a lot. Bye.